Hello everyone, my name is Maxime Ruffet, and I'm going to introduce you to a double objective in a GOAP planner, procedural dungeons level generation, and NPC planning. This project comes from a game called Khaldun that has been developed during my third year at Isart Digital Paris. Let's start with a bit of theory. So why using planning in the first place? Khaldun is a mix of roguelike and Metroidvania, which means that the player keeps fighting AIs. Also, Metroidvania induces that the game is a 2D platformer game, while roguelike induces that a level is generated procedurally. Each time you launch the game, a whole new 2D platformer level is fully generated. This gave the game a lot of replayability. However, it is very difficult for the AI to adapt to its environment. Through the years, we've known 2D games where the AIs were stuck on the platform, just going from left to right. And now, adding the procedural level generation means that aside from the platform, the AI has no idea what the level is about. So why not trying to make a smart AI that will be both interesting to the player and capable of adapting to the environment? This is our reason to use planning. By looking at this graph, now that we choose planning for AI, there are two elements that will use random generation. Of course, the planning, but also the procedural level generation. So now we come to the question, can we apply behavioral engineering to the decors? The same engineering we are using for AI. First, we have to think about the whole level as a generated plan, where each step of the plan will be a room. Thus, the level will simply be a succession of rooms. On a classic GOAP planner, we would use the strips norm with pre and post conditions to make sure that an action can be added to the plan. So the idea is to use these conditions as the room's entrance position. Then we will have to do a direct match between these conditions, which is not the case in the default strips, to ensure that the doors are correctly aligned. After setting up the algorithm, we quickly came to a big limitation. We started by generating our level plan, great, then put a beginning and an ending, fine. Well, not really. Now the level is completely linear and has absolutely no verticality, which is not interesting for a player, especially in a 2D platformer game. So we had to think about a more advanced design that would add the level expansion. The first step is to add entrances on each side of the room instead of just left and right. Then we need to know in what direction we are going to expand. That's why we added a heuristic expansion matrix. This matrix will lead the expansion during the generation, depending on the direction we are coming from and the direction we are expanding. Here is a screenshot in-engine where the matrix is easily editable for the designers and allows them to shape the level expansion. So now that we are ready for a complete generation, let's have a look at the algorithm running. The first pass of the planning is the generation of the levels sketch using the level expansion. In this example, we place the beginning first, then the level starts by expanding on the right, then top, then why not left, then right, right, right again, and finally bottom where the end is reached. Once we have generated the level sketch, we run a second planning pass for the room matching. Thanks to the sketch, we now know what room to pick depending on their entrances directions. In this example, the first room needs to have a single opening on the right, then the second room, an opening on the left that matches the first room's entrance, and an opening on the top. The algorithm will keep running until all the rooms are correctly matched together. And here is the result in game. We can clearly see the rooms plugged together with this unzoomed view, but it is not that easy while playing. Now our planning algorithm works well, but we are facing a new problem: the room generation. Since we are matching rooms together, we need a wide variety of rooms to not make it repetitive and avoid the player getting lost in the level. To face that new problem, we created a tool to simplify and fasten room creation. The designers have access to a color palette, where each color is assigned to a material or a feature: floor, wall, rope, chest, and so on. Then, they can use these colors to create a room sketch on a grid. The whole process of creation became really fast and easy. After that, by hitting the Generate button, the room prefab will be automatically created. Here is the result: a new room soon ready to be added to the room pool. Another key point of this tool, it also generates metadata about the room's entrance that will be useful for the matching path. Such data must be the most precise possible for the well-being of the algorithm, which is secured now. The very last step is for the artist team to fill this room with assets. Now everything is completed and the room can be used. A question still remains: how does the AI adapt to this completely new environment? Such as in the game Fear, we added points of interest that grant new actions to the AI. Ropes, chests, and portals are interesting for both the player and the AI. While getting near to a rope, the AI is granted the action Climb. When the AI is on a platform and sees the player below, the action Jump is granted. With these two new actions and a good level design, the planning doesn't need anything more. If the AI sees the player, it might jump from its platform. If the player starts running away, the AI will still be able to chase him, even with ropes. Chests and portals don't provide any new action. However, they remain points of interest, which means the AI is more likely to hang around them while patrolling. Great adaptability for a good immersion. Let's take a look at some situations in-game. Here, as the player arrives, one AI was already patrolling and decided to climb the rope. As soon as the player is inside, its goal is set to attack. The player then tries to escape, but the AI keeps chasing him by jumping below. In the second situation, the player escapes multiple AIs by running away. He climbs the rope, but gets instantly followed by one AI. While the player was getting the chest, the second AI also climbed the rope and is now patrolling near the portal. Finally, the player gets out but enters the portal again to escape. After waiting some time, the AI is still guarding the portal and the player understands he will have to fight. I will now go through one usual question. Can we make the room generation process fully automatic? In theory, it can be achieved by using a neural network. We could use all the rooms already generated as data for supervised learning, and then use the neural network to fasten the room generation. However, this new process will have to be split into two parts. The first one is the no-level design. We would use a neural network to replace the level design process. By providing inputs such as the number of platforms, chests, AIs, entrance directions, and more, the neural network will be able to output a room sketch that would be used by the room generator. The second part is the no artist integration. We would use another neural network for the room decoration process. This time, the inputs provided would be the room sketch previously generated and the empty room to fill. By knowing all the possible assets and how to use them from supervised learning, a good integration could be possible. This is in theory. Reality might be more complex. Indeed, this new process will make less work for designers, who would be able to focus more on balancing endgame experience, and less work for artists, who could create new assets instead of making integration. However, what about the level design integrity? Will two rooms matched together make sense? And what about the artistic direction integrity? We have to ensure coherence, especially for assets integration. The immersion granted by the planning must not be broken by missing integrity. Thanks for listening, and feel free to play to Khaldun for free on itch.io.